Hello, Gary. Lovely to meet you. And thank you very much for your time today. For those who don't know who you are, Gary, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do in business and how you are here today?
Well, let's start at the end because I'm now retired. I'm 73 next June, and I exited my company in October 2019 for a number of reasons, cacophony of reasons, which I can go through all those. Um, and decided that the best thing I could do with all my knowledge is write it down. If it's not written down, you don't own it. So put it into a book. I wanted to write a business book. I didn't really want to write about my life, but I made the book about city cruises and the stories and the lessons that I learned. I'm really happy to share those with as many people as I possibly can. And isn't it great that there are organizations like yourself that are offering fantastic advice to people, because you just got to sit there and listen and take that advice, and hopefully all during the day there'll be loads of things coming out that people can take back and start doing in their own business. So for me it was all about, I started on the river when I was a lad, had loads of different milestones along the way, and then by the time we'd learnt to exit the company, I just wanted to write down all those lessons, whether it be lessons about finance or HR or health and safety, just growing the company, growing pains, acquisitions, mergers, all those kind of things, all those lessons that we had. So the business was started back in the 70s. So yeah, got a bit of advice to give to people, and hopefully if this helps and saves any heartache along the way, fantastic. So
Always, always. So did you have a book that you lent on whilst you were building your business, or was that part of the fuel of going, no, if I'd had that, it would have been amazing. So I'm going to give that to people now.
well, the answer is I didn't have a book that I went to, and also being dyslexic, I wasn't diagnosed with dyslexia till I was 40. And that really explained loads of stuff to me, because I didn't understand why. I thought I was always quite bright, but obviously that wasn't reflected in school at all. I was bottom of the class constantly.
Yeah.
Um, and so that was kind of, I really didn't understand that. I now know that if you can't read the questions correctly, then you're never going to get the right answer. So school kind of was really frustrating. There wasn't nothing that I took from anything. Although I was always asking people about things because I really didn't understand the next stage. So decided to write all that down. Um, and obviously the thing about books is you've got to make it fun to read. So that was another part that I was desperately trying to get right. I think I got from the feedback, I think it's been okay. So people have enjoyed reading it, and hopefully they've learnt the lessons as well. So yeah.
Amazing.
Mm.
Incredible. So obviously, people coming on the day are going to hear a lot about your journey, and I don't want to give too many spoilers, but what, for those attending, what sort of key insights and lessons do you think people can take away on the day from your talk?
Well, how to grow your business. It's you could say there's four ways, excluding acquisitions and mergers. There's only four ways to grow your business. So I go through all the methods of how to grow your business. And you could have a degree in any one of those four subjects because it's endless. You just carry on, keep learning how to do it. So I try to explain those four ways to grow the business. And then on top of that, you've got the business itself on how you cope with growing, because you've constantly got growing pains. I mean, if you're a company that's expanding, there's obviously growing pains constantly. From recruiting new staff to putting systems in place that allow you to operate. And of course, what made it even more complex for me was that it was a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week operation, and it's impossible to be there for that length of time. So you kind of govern the business, and then you put the things in place, and you hope you don't get phone calls from managers that are in distress, of course. So or customers that are in distress. So
Yeah.
hopefully you try and get it right. So
And
yeah,
did you
putting systems in place is a key thing.
Incredible. Yeah, and definitely one that when we've spoken to businesses, systems and processes are always the things that everyone comes back down. The earlier
Yeah,
you get them in, the better you will grow and the
yeah,
quicker you will establish your growth as well.
yeah.
So, did you find that you very quickly went from working within the business to working on the business, or did you set yourself up to always work on the business?
Um, you don't realise what you do. So I have learned now that what I did, and I didn't know I was doing it, but what I did is I built infrastructure. And I
Yeah.
built infrastructure that was happening tomorrow or next week or next month or next year or even 10 years in advance. So I could see where the company needed to go. And in order to get there, we needed to have infrastructure, whether that be square foot office space for headquarters or engineering or catering or just bigger boats, new boats, more captains, more staff. HR department was growing, procurement was growing. So all those things were growing, and you need to have some kind of idea on how to get there. So I guess I was always working on the business in terms of I was always looking at growing that infrastructure. At the same time, when the business was growing, I was inside the business trying to work out who I could employ to take over that part of the role that I was doing at the moment. So there was a natural growth, and it's a bit like, chicken egg.
Yeah.
Although I have ordered a chicken and an egg from Amazon, and I'll let you know which one comes first. Um,
Very good.
you've got to just try. So working in it and on it at the same time. Ultimately, you want to work on it 100%. But it's just as important to carry on working in it to understand who your management team are, who are the bright ones coming up, and who are the ones that you're going to be promoted at the next division. And where do we go? Where do we open? Well, we opened in the south coast, and then we opened up in Yorkshire. So the expansion plans were, that didn't happen overnight. That was a long time in the planning and process on how to get there. And if we did go, how would we run it? Who would run it? What was the organizational chart looking like? What was the cash flow? Was there a downside? Was there an upside? Yeah, so that was constantly happening at the same, and all these things happen at the same time. And you run around focusing on one part, but so I managed to put things in a pigeonhole in my head, and then I could work on that in the future. So if you imagine a pigeonhole for every month, and then take that for 10 years, then all of a sudden you've got 120 pigeonholes that you've got little bits of memos in, and you must get round to doing this at that particular time, or you can move it 1 month or whatever. But yes, it's great. On an expanding business, it's really exciting. Time really goes really quickly, and hopefully you make lots of right decisions. So
And did you find that the vision as you grew, those pigeonholes were obviously changing and who was where within the business? So because your vision grew, actually the end goal sort of change and shifted alignment as well.
oh, absolutely. Because when we first started, I mean, after 8 years, I guess, maybe 9, we had actually sold the first business that we'd ever started. So the business, after 9 years, did not resemble anything that we'd started with, and that's what happens in business. It's a bit like we used to have coal delivered when I was a boy,
Yeah.
and it came on a horse-drawn cart. Now, nobody delivers coal anymore, and they
No.
definitely don't deliver it on a horse-drawn cart. So how different my life has been to watch all these changes. I mean, computers never existed. Mobile phones never existed. I mean, I told my kids that, Christmas, I used to get an apple and an orange. And they went, wow, you got a mobile phone and a computer. I went, no, I got an apple and an orange. So, it was different. It was fantastic. It was just so different. Marketing was so different. I mean, Yellow Pages, you put your advert in Yellow Pages, and that was it. There was no other way to market. Now you can be anywhere in the world specializing in something and you can sell that product. So, wow. I mean, the post office was the only person that existed years ago. Nobody ever
Yeah.
sent a parcel by any other means. Um, telex came and went. Faxes came and went. Um, email. Who would have guessed email? When I started in business, email? Dreams. I mean, it was just,
I mean,
people had a black and white printer and,
I
it's like,
had to
oh, that's
explain a
so different.
pager. No, I had to explain a pager to my son the other day, and I was like, I remember my mum walking around with a belt full of like mobile pager, this and all of the sorts of things. Now
Yeah,
it's all just on one device, right?
yeah. So,
So,
your business constantly evolves
yeah.
just by modern technology. But you see, I realized that one day when we employed a young lady came into our sales team, and she was 18 years of age, and they put her down at her desk, and she went, "What is that?" So we said, "Well, that's the operating system. It's called MOS-DOS." So when you first started in computers, it was a green screen and there was words on there, and we'd had this program especially written. She said, "Haven't you got Windows?" Luckily, I was in the room because I came out of the room and said to one of my managers, "You need to find out what this word means, Windows. Go and find out what it means and come back." And he come back and said, "Well, there's a operating system. It sits between MOS-DOS and the client, so it's a bit easier for them to operate." I said, "Well, we've got to get it because if that's what they're teaching the youngsters in school, we need to know that."
And that's it, isn't it? It's the evolution is being open to the fact that those younger than us are teaching up,
Yeah,
not down anymore, and
yeah,
we need to take
absolutely.
their knowledge that they're bringing to us and
Yeah,
run with it.
yeah. And I don't think technical. I don't, I sit down at this screen. I can honestly tell you that I did not press the buttons to get live today. I've got somebody else who shows that for me. They go, "Look, you press this." Okay, all right.
Thank you.
It's not instinctive. And that's the problem, I suppose, with my generation. But then it will change. It's just, artificial intelligence. Wow, that is so exciting. You ask it an impossible questions, and a few seconds later, it comes back with
Yeah.
something that's pretty powerful. And
Yeah.
you never stop learning.
No,
Never
it's
stop learning. So life's exciting. So,
we're in a fantastic age and new era of learning with the technology that's helping us do that. So, I mean, why do you believe that events like the Kent Business Show then are important to business professionals, and how can they maximise attending that event on the day?
well, I guess the first thing is if you're an owner and you're sat in your office and you've got nobody that you can confide in, and you've got all these fears, worries, aspirations. So, the good and the bad, and you're sitting there, and then you go to a conference and somebody is telling you a story and you feel that part of that story relates to you. There's a comfort zone there.
Mm.
And you might actually hear something that you've never even thought of, and you go, "Wow, that's clever, that's smart. That's something I can try or aspire to." Or get help other ways and join in any organization. I remember that when we were in the EU, I was sat or the chairman of quite a lot of trade organizations. And I remember going through with the secretariat one day, and there was 5,000 new regulations that had come into being in the United Kingdom. Now, clearly, some of those legislations didn't apply to my industry. Nevertheless, somebody has got to read those 5,000 regulations, find out which industry they apply to, and then the trade organisation has got to read them, work out to advise their members how to implement those legislations, and then there's a cost on top of that. So being a member of a trade organisation of any description is going to put an arm around you to say, "We're reading all the regulations. You don't have to worry about. We'll tell you the ones that are relevant to you, and we try and work out how to do it. And there's a cost." And then you're in an organisation with friendly people all trying to aspire to the same goal. And if you're not in there, how difficult is that going to be going forward? With not knowing the legislation. So yeah, so anywhere you can get advice, and if it's free, fantastic.
Fantastic. Gary, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. And I'm really, really excited to come and listen to you on the 13th of March at the Kent Business Show. I cannot wait to hear your story. Will you have some books with you on the day as well? People can grab those
Yeah,
from you?
I'm down to my last 20,000. Yeah.
Okay, so just enough. I'll be first in the queue for a signature as well. I love a signed book, me. Fabulous. Have a wonderful afternoon, won't you? And we look forward to seeing you on the 13th of March.
Okay, looking forward to it. Okay, Rachel. Bye bye.
Thanks.